Welcome to the Roxborough Roundtables. My name is Jessica Putman, and I am the student coordinator for the tables. Today, our topic is Fraternity Life on Campus, Myths, Dangers, and Stigmas. Our host today is Giancarlo Bruniolo.
Yep. Hi, everybody. My name is Giancarlo Bruniolo. I am the Assistant Director of Student Engagement here at Philadelphia University. I also happen to be the advisor to Greek Life here. With me, I'm joined by several members of Greek Life, and I'll have them go around the room and introduce themselves as well as their positions.
My name is James Hara. I am the president of Alpha Chi Rho.
I'm John Massaro. I'm the fundraising chair at Alpha Chi Rho.
I'm Stephanie Nelson, and I'm in DFIE, and I'm the alumni coordinator.
I'm Brittany DeCole, and I'm the president of Delta Phi Epsilon.
And I'm Henry Pius, the president of Stigmas.
So as we begin this discussion, one of the most important things that I would like to start on first is why Greek Life is important to you guys. What was it about Greek Life that made you want to become a part of this? So to start, let's start with you, John.
Sure. I joined Greek Life pretty much. I want to make a difference on campus with other people who have the same motives that I do. And that's why I like being a fundraising chair. I just want to pretty much emphasize opportunities that we can do for our college and our brothers. And
Great. Thanks, John. Brittany?
And jumping off what John said, I always knew that I wanted to be in Greek Life when coming to college. And then when I actually learned more about the philanthropies that Delta Phi Epsilon associates with and their morals and really met the sisters, that's when I knew that I wanted to pledge for Delta Phi Epsilon.
Great. Thanks, Brittany. Go ahead, Henry.
And I personally joined Greek Life to network with different crowd of people, to meet older college collegians, whatever. But yeah, just to meet new people, branch out, do something different.
Thank you, Henry. Seth?
I never thought that I would be a part of Greek Life until the first time I met a Delta Phi Epsilon sister, and I knew that I came to college other than to pursue my academics and to find a family on campus.
Thanks, Steph. And Jimmy?
I kind of was back and forth about Greek Life when I decided to come to Philly U. But for me, it was the strong sense of brotherhood. I met my brothers the very first day on move-in day, and Brian Corcadillos came up to me and said, "Hey, do you need help moving in?" I said, "Yep." Next thing I knew, everything was in my room, and from that point on, I kind of got a glimpse of what the brotherhood was about.
Thank you, Jimmy. So, with that being said, do you think that Greek Life plays an important role to the university, or is it more of a risk that you think? To start off with, let's start with you, Steph.
Sure. Greek Life is something that's so important to me in so many different aspects. So although we do have a lot of social events, as Brittany said before, we do so much work with our philanthropies and really get involved on campus, but as well as in our community in Philadelphia.
Great, thanks, Steph. Henry?
Yeah, I feel that Greek Life is a great vehicle for a small campus such as this one. We are able to provide fundraising events on campus, raise awareness to charity events and stuff like that. And it's really great just to be able to work with other organizations on campus.
Great. Go ahead, Brittany.
I agree with what Henry said, and I would definitely say that Greek Life is an extremely positive thing. There's very few groups on campus that teach you the leadership and the loyalty, the responsibility, the self-sustaining qualities that Greek Life teaches you, and it's usually something that Greek members carry with them throughout their entire lives.
Jimmy, your thoughts?
Yeah, Greek Life is a great vehicle. Jumping off of what Brittany just talked about, I learned a lot about leadership and certain fundamental tasks that you need in everyday life just by getting thrown into the position I'm in last year. And it really does, I feel like my time with the people I've met has taught me a lot more about the everyday essential life skills that you don't necessarily learn in the classroom or in some groups on campus.
Sure thing.
I just want to go to the Evan Lane. I want to throw something in. My daughter went to University of Florida, which is a considerably bigger university than ours, Philly U here. And she was thinking of Greek Life at the beginning, and what she found distasteful and I found distasteful was the selection process at the beginning. I did not think that the process of saying you're worthy and you're not is something that I would want to subject my child to or subject myself to, and that's why I wasn't involved in the fraternity when I went to University of Albany, which is also a fairly big school many, many years ago. How do you address that, and does that exist here, and how do you address that anyway?
Jimmy, go ahead.
Jimmy, it's a lot different here at a smaller campus. Obviously, we don't really do that. As you probably also assume, the hazing and everything that goes along with it. For us, it's not a matter of talking about who's worthy and not worthy. It's a matter of finding a fit within the brotherhood or the sisterhood that you know is going to become a productive member of your brotherhood or your sisterhood. It's about not letting in the bad seed that you feel is going to bring down everybody else. It's finding a group of people that you know are going to be able to work together to achieve something better. It's the same thing that happens in a job or an athletic team. When you go out for a tryout for a soccer team, it's the same thing. Well, you're not good enough to be on this team. So it's also not just a stigma that follows Greek life. It happens, I would say, even in real-world job applications where you put two together, Joe and John, Joe is better than John, so it's not just something that works with Greek life.
Go ahead, Brittany.
Jumping off what Jimmy said, speaking from a sorority aspect, we're really fortunate on this campus to have obtained another sorority, so now we go through a formal recruitment process, which can be intense, but it's exactly like Jimmy said. We are a selective elite group, but it's not meant to be negative. It's meant to find those people who feel as passionately about our groups as we do, and it's there to make sure that we're selecting people who have the right values, the right mindset, who will continue to run the organization efficiently when the current members leave. And exactly what Jimmy said, Greek life automatically has a negative connotation to it, and so we have to work extra hard to promote a positive image.
Go ahead,
John. Back to what you were saying. We want guys to come to us. I don't look and search for people to be come out for this. I want to see that you have what it takes to want to have the motives that I have, and that you want to progress and do the philanthropy events that we do and all that stuff. And back to the question that you had before about risk or not, I feel that our positives outweigh our negatives. I feel that our philanthropy events are just something that's very important to this school, and I feel it's just what you make out of it, pretty much.
Great. Any other comments?
Yeah, I would just say that Sigma Nu, we're pretty accepting to any guy who feels like you want to rush. They have a formal process. We have no bids, but generally they pass and we hand them out, and we look for guys to find their own little niche, in what they want to do, whether it's focus on student life or community service, stuff like that. And if they don't, then they just weed themselves out, and that's that. They kind of just do it to themselves.
This is Brittany. I would definitely agree with what Henry said. Usually you know if you're a fit for the group or not by going, and that's really what the recruitment process is for the recruits to find out more about the group and to see if they really can align themselves, and for the group to see if they can really be the member that we're looking for. So, if they come out for recruitment and they're I don't really know these philanthropies, or, I'm not really vibing with those people, then they usually don't come back for round after round.
I think a very important question, kind of going off of that statement, is: do you believe that everybody is meant to be a part of Greek life? John, go ahead.
John. I feel that. I just forgot what I was going to say.
Go ahead.
That's what Greek life's all about, helping a brother.
Exactly. And the answer is no, because as anybody sitting around this table right now will say, we have, of course, we have our 4 landmarks. And if I see somebody that's going to go against my landmark, and one of the biggest one is discrimination, not by race or creed, no discrimination by race or creed. If I see somebody that's going to be oh no, I don't want him in my fraternity because he's black, I'm going to kick that kid out right away. I'm going to, whether he's a pledge or a brother, I'm going to say, no, you don't belong here. It's as selective as outsiders think we are, because we are a close, tight-knit community. we are also very accepting of everybody, especially at a smaller school like this.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, John. I'm back. Pretty much. I don't think we have like a niche. Like I treat everyone in my fraternity as a family. I look to help and benefit other people. Like if you're in the fraternity, I don't think that you're here to prove to me something. Like I want to show you things. Like I want to help you. Like like my little will come over. Like I'll help him with his homework. I'll show him whatever he wants. Like I want to show them and lead them into the direction that I'm trying to get into. So it's not necessarily like do you fit in? Like if you want to have the same motives that we do with our landmarks and such, then you would join.
And going off of what John said, I'm Brittany. I kind of understand what John's saying, but I would agree, I think, more with Jimmy in that there's definitely certain people who are Greek life people. We're at various social groups and we like to do events with each other and get to know each other and do events outside the community, and some people just aren't that type of person. They just don't like to extend themselves and be put in those kind of uncomfortable situations. And we work very, very hard. Like we are all self-sustaining groups and run ourselves a lot of the time. Like we don't always rely on our advisor to make our decisions. And again, some people just don't always have that time to be able to put into an organization like this, or even financially. There's a lot of financial aspects that come with being Greek, and some people just don't, unfortunately, have all those options available. So we do have certain criteria that make a person Greek.
So to throw one thing out, because I know we have very few groups here because we're small schools. So again, going back to the big school, the Penn States, the UFs, and so forth. And correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't there certain fraternities, especially sororities, that have certain elite statuses that certain people are looked at, that if they make it into one sorority, they're a higher class of people, where there's sort of the fraternities, or mostly sororities, where maybe they're not as high class, or they may be even closer to the loser type of situation, and they're looked at as like, you're with that sorority, they're not as good.
I think that there are stereotypes with each group, which is kind of unfortunate because I think that does tend to sway people's opinions, which is why the recruitment process is so crucial in everything, because a girl may come out for Delta Phi Epsilon and think that she wants to be in this group, but then meets some girls from Theta Phi Alpha and realizes that she loves those philanthropies and that's a really great group of girls and that's where she fits in. And it doesn't really make a difference which group you're in. It just is more important that you feel like you're a part of the group. Again, that's like the really great point about the recruitment process.
Go ahead, Steph, and then we'll go to Jimmy next.
Sure. I think that each individual chapter also makes like their own name at the school. So Delta Phi Epsilon at Philly U may be very different from Delta Phi Epsilon at Temple University. I've met many girls who are my sorority sisters that go to different schools, and although we do go along the same bylaws, we're very different, and we care about DPhi in many different ways, but then we all focus on our core values.
You're definitely right. There definitely is a stigma on certain schools. You're always going to have your teaks, and you're always going to have your pikes, and you're always going to have your DPhi's, which is one of the bigger sororities. But honestly, like I said, as a whole community, like I've visited Penn State, and like, yeah, you have competition just like us and Sigma have had. Like, we love each other, but we compete with each other all the time on just different stuff, whether it's Greek week or anything. Like, you're gonna have that. Like, that's the most anybody gets kind of like airheaded or like that, or sitting on a pedestal at other schools. Once you get in there, you realize that as a fraternity, like, yeah, you might think you're better than this group, but in the long run, like, by the time you graduate, you realize that it's not about who's like bigger fraternity, it's about how you're bettering the community.
To top off what Jimmy was saying, I think it also, as you progress in college, I think you also learn how to not worry about what other people think. And I think it's okay to be your own person and express what you feel. And I feel that, we're a pretty small school, and you're right, like, I've been to Penn State also, I've seen what's over there, there's pike, there's teak, there's all that stuff. And it's just like what you make out of like the situation, and like I feel like if you're like if just goes back to the whole perspective thing. It's like it's what you make out of it. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Henry, do you have any thoughts?
I do not.
It also, this is Jimmy, it also goes back, again, like a stigma that's just against Greek life. What's to say it's the same thing with the school selection process, is it not? People automatically think that Harvard education is way better. But in reality, I can get a pretty much just as good education if I go to a state school in Pennsylvania as I can to Harvard. Well, my professor,
small private school in East Falls,
or a small private school. But the difference is it's a state school to a large private institution. There's no difference between the two. You're paying more for one. Yeah, your professors might be more well known or something, but at the same time, if you put into it what you want at the state school, you're going to learn just as much, if not more, from that large private institution.
Jimmy, that was very profound.
What can I say?
Thank you, Jimmy. And one of the things that was brought up were some of the stereotypes and stigmas that come along with Greek life. And I really want to roll into the Rolling Stone article that recently had came out and partially redacted. But I think it still hit on a very key point that still follows Greek life no matter where you go, and that's the idea of alcohol abuse and sexual abuse. And I really want to say, from your perspective as leaders within the Greek community, do you feel that the situation that happened at the University of Virginia had an impact here on you guys and maybe on how you conduct business? Go ahead, Jimmy.
No. Because, again, like, that's just the stigma against Greeks. Duke Blue Devils, was that 10 years ago, got accused of raping a girl? Same reason at Virginia, correct? But why, like, didn't come back to every lacrosse team in the country, you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of thing, like, one group does it, so they're all bad. So that's kind of like the issue that people have. But in the long run, especially since it wasn't like our national chapter or our national charter that did it, it doesn't come back to affect us in the way that others might think. Like, we probably get judged a little bit harder and get like, okay, maybe behind closed door, school administration looks at us a little bit closer, but...
This is Brittany, and I have to say, as like a woman in Greek life, it's much different. We have done socials and mixers with other fraternities at other schools where we know that they're known for roofing, and they do it by a code system on the bottom of a cup. So, when we go places, it's really about educating our girls on, if you're going to take a drink there, make sure you're covering it, or even if it's a can, make sure you're not putting it down, make sure you're the one pouring your drink, make sure you don't hand your drink to a guy, make sure you don't turn your back on a drink. It's much different being a girl in Greek life and doing those types of things. But then again, it's much different being a girl in general when going out to a party. That can happen anywhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be Greek life, but like these kind of events just enforce like what we do as women and how we educate our groups.
And I actually do want to question you a little bit about that for the two members from our sorority here. One of the things that UVA has instituted was a ban of sorority members attending fraternity parties. And there was an interview done with one of the sorority sisters there, and one of the things that she said was that she felt that the university was perpetuating this idea that women were an inferior sexual object, in the sense that the university was stepping in and saying what was best for the females on the campus, rather than allowing the ladies to go ahead and kind of make their own decision. What are your thoughts on something like that? Steph, we'll go ahead.
So freshman year, when I joined D-Phi, I had somebody say to me on the day that I got a bid, I hate that you're in a sorority, you're going to end up raped. And I was like, this is so interesting. Anybody could get raped, a female or a male. And just because I'm in a sorority, like, I think that means that I'm going to maybe a mix or an event with more sisters, with more people that care about me, more people watching my back. And so with UVA, when they said that sorority women cannot go to fraternity men's parties or events anymore, I think that is trying to say, like, women like don't get put in a situation that you're going to end up in trouble. I've had many nights where I've been the mom of the situation, whether I was with my sorority sisters, my guy friends in Greek life, or even just my friends that are non-Greeks. And I think women have to stand up for themselves, but as well as defend themselves and have that opportunity to defend themselves.
Brittany.
Yeah, I would agree with Steph. I don't think that the university was trying to cut down women's opinion. I think it was more of like a protection thing. You know, like you have this big investigation about a very serious issue, which could potentially be a lawsuit for the university. So I think it was more of the university trying to step out and protect what they could. Personally, I feel like that was a little extreme to say that no sorority can have events with fraternities or go to a fraternity house, because I'm sure even in a bigger school, like Greek life is very tight knit, where our community we like look out for each other. So to put a ban so harshly and so fast before this investigation was finalized, I think was a little extreme.
Gentlemen, do you guys have any thoughts on this? Go ahead, Henry.
I believe that by placing it down, something like that, just puts a negative connotation on Greek life in general, and it also leaves matters to be like open for opinion. And when that happens, and especially if it goes nationwide, then it can easily get blown out of proportion.
You guys have anything else? Go ahead, Jim.
I would say, I think that the ban is a little, like, it's outrageous at first. Yeah, when you look at it just plain look at it, like, okay, the school's trying to help, but at the same time, it's also hurting other groups, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't affect just that one fraternity, if I'm correct. It affected multiple fraternities on that campus that maybe don't have that reputation that they do that. So now they're ruined. I think, I just think, honestly, correct me if I'm wrong, but like if you guys, went to a party and one of your sisters got roofied, you would probably make a mental note for every, generation coming in saying, we don't want to go there anymore because of this. It's something that they themselves are smart enough to figure out like, what they want to do with their stuff.
We'll go Stephanie and then we'll go Evan.
Sure. So being on NPC, which is National Panhellenic Council, Delta Phi Epsilon and Theta Phi Alpha are both under that. So NPC holds the rule against us that all of our parties and what we have on, like for us, have to be dry. So therefore, NPC makes us rely on fraternities to host the parties.
Go ahead, Evan.
What I thought was interesting is how much of this is not Greek life, but just life between men and women of your age. Is there any difference in apartment parties as opposed to Greek parties, or are Greek parties even perhaps safer because you have some people looking out after you as opposed to a apartment party?
Go ahead, Jim.
To an extent, I think it can go either way. Greek life parties definitely can because of the money involved with Greek organizations, especially at larger schools. Things can get blown out of proportion. But at the same time, you look at schools like Penn State. When I was up at Penn State a couple of years ago for like a national convention conclave thing, I talked to the president about how they have to because they register their parties, so the school and police know about them. They have to abide by a set checklist of things. They need to have signs up that show where food and water are. They need to provide food and water for everybody at the party and things like that. Like Greek organizations, especially at bigger schools like Penn State, are often prepared for just any kind of danger as it is. So, and at any given time, they're known that the cops can walk into their party.
How about an apartment party, though?
An apartment party, no, they don't have to follow any of that.
Stemming off of what Jimmy said, we always, sororities and fraternities take risk management procedures. I know, depending on the number of our sisters who attend, we have sober sisters, so we usually always have 2 or 3 sober sisters at the party that if someone would get into harm's way or whatever the case may be, that they're there to take that person home. I know that fraternities must do the same because we've had social events.
You're looking out.
Yeah.
Because the point I'm making is that by putting that law in that you told us about, listen, guys and girls are going to be getting together one way or the other in college. So what you're doing is forcing them out of a somewhat controlled circumstance that you talked about and putting them into a totally uncontrolled.
Exactly.
So it actually defeats what they're trying to do. They're actually making their students high risk by putting them into that situation.
Yes, I would completely agree with that, and from an administrative standpoint as well. Any other comments on that particular issue? Okay, so in general, before the ban on even just allowing sororities attending the parties, one of the things that the university did was suspended all of Greek life for a temporary period of time while they were conducting this particular investigation. Do you feel like that was the right call for the university to make, to go ahead and suspend all of Greek life during that time period? Okay, Henry, I see you shaking your head.
No, it just kills reputation, like Jimmy was saying earlier. How groups are trying to do the right thing, but then they get penalized for another mistake.
And everyone is so quick to judge Greek life. Like as soon as something negative comes out, oh, it's automatically happening, it's automatically Greek life. They automatically did the wrong thing, excuse me. And yeah, I agree with Henry. Like I don't agree with the ban on the whole Greek life.
Jimmy, told us, but again, it goes back to that negative stigma that for whatever reason it's just been put on Greek life. Did Duke suspend all sports teams from having parties? I realize I'm just using like the same example over and over again, but at the same time, like things like these happen all around the country in different institutions with different groups. It's not just Greek life that these incidents happen in. Sports teams do it all the time. Jameis Winston, most recently, was just accused of rape last year when he went on a college visit. He was a high school kid on a college visit when that happened. Do you suspend the football team? No, they keep playing.
Steph, go ahead.
Also, whatever point the school was trying to make when they suspended Greek life, I saw in many different articles that the suspension was from November 30th, which is right after Thanksgiving break, until about January 9th, January 12th. And most of that is winter break, when students are not on campus. So it's really hard as an outsider who's still in Greek life but not on that campus to find the purpose of why school officials did that.
John, and pretty much what Jimmy was saying too, I'm not, bashing on their organizations and stuff, but, if something goes wrong with the basketball team, you're not going to penalize the girls' basketball team, the girls' lacrosse team, all the other organizations as well that's affiliated with sports. Mm-hmm. It just looks bad upon us, and it's just something that's been going on for decades that is the way we are looked upon, and I think it limits
even the individuals within sports teams don't get penalized. Jameis Winston was allowed to play all season, minus one game. He had a 1 game suspension, which wasn't even related to. The guy stole crab legs and still didn't get suspended.
They're probably
that's what I'm saying.
Totally understand. And one of the very interesting things that happened as a result of this case was, it really went all over social media, and I think social media has been something that has really transformed and changed the discussion and the perception of Greek life. So how do you feel that social media has impacted Greek life in general, or maybe even here at Philadelphia University, looking specifically at things like Yik Yak and Snapchat and some of these other social media outlets? Go ahead, Brittany.
I recently just got a Yik Yak to see what all the hype was about, and there was a yak. That's
Is that what you call them?
I don't know what a yak, a post that said, "I wish I had enough money to join a sorority," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So I checked the replies, and the replies to it were, "Sororities are the worst thing off campus. They're negative. They don't do anything good." And so while social media can be the best thing, because I know in DeFi we have a Tumblr, we have an Instagram, we have a Twitter, we have a Facebook, it can also be so detrimental to a group. Like I said before, we have risk management policies in place, and we are always checking our girls' pages, no matter what type of social media it's on, because all you need is for one picture with one sister with one drink for the school to find out and for the whole entire group to be penalized for that. So social media, while it is a great thing, it can also be very detrimental.
Other thoughts? Go ahead, Jimmy.
The other thing, again, just bouncing off of Brittany, like social media, Snapchat is like terrible. Instagram is the worst. Like, it's not because like we don't want people to like post. Like, if you're in letters, like that's like kind of like our like as a fraternity, that's my one rule. Is like I never want to see anything, even in public. Like, I don't want to see you in person with a drink in your hand with letters on. Like, don't want to do it. If it's like two brothers sitting in like their house, you know, off campus, like doing whatever, then it's kind of like there's like a little bit of leeway in there. But
I really don't want to see you walking around campus with a drink.
yeah, exactly. I don't want to see you out in public drunk with letters on. You know, that's just like a normal thing. But the other thing that's been popping up a lot over the summer were snaps or photos people sent from mixers that were like a beer Olympics per se. So you all know the idea of a beer Olympics. You pick a country, you dress up as best as you can in that country, and then you go for it and you do your best, all right? Well, like people take these photos and like people post them online, which okay, like you shouldn't be doing in the first place, just as like a personal thing, whether you're in an organization or not. And like one group is like, I think the group was like Mexico, and they had like sombreros and ponchos on, and all of a sudden they were racist. Like, you were discriminating against an entire nationality, you're terrible people. But like, again, that's something that happens outside of Greek life too. But just, it's bad. Social media is a terrible thing.
Jimmy's saying, I'm trying to actually get our guys to lean more towards using social media, for showing what we stand for, to show like our philanthropy events, different things that we're doing. What?
Those.
This?
Yeah, that's all over social media, dude.
Yeah, man.
So talk about it.
Okay. Okay, so I went to conclaves, and there's this thing I'm looking into for our fraternity. It's called It's On Us. It's a thing about sexual harassment towards women, and it's pretty much just brings awareness to the idea of that. And pretty much, I want us to do that because I want to show everyone that we're not what we look like, you know, in movies, you know, American Pie, you know, the BMS, all that stuff, you know, like, I want to show that we actually care and that we actually, like, you know, stand for something.
This is where social media,
and this is where social media will come in.
Yeah, like,
as it's a double-edged sword.
Delta Phi Epsilon has one of the biggest philanthropy events on campus, our event D for Dude, which is going to be on Friday, March 27th at 7 p.m. in the Canmar Performance Space. But we use, it's a male pageant, and so we take pictures of our guys and post them on social media to get like the hype out. So like that's when social media is like a great tool for us to promote events. And even AXP, they do their Crow Glow, and Sigma Nu does their biking philanthropy, Bike for a Cure, and that is when like we really need to utilize social media to reach as many people on this campus as possible and the community.
You bring in social media, but how about movies like Animal House, Neighbors? Like you were talking about that. How do you react to that? Because it's obviously not portrayed in a positive manner.
Yeah, John. I get a little upset when I see that stuff because it's like, you know, when I came to college, that's what my perspective was of a fraternity, and like I wasn't about joining one until I came here, and I was like, okay, it's actually not that. That's not the case. We actually stand for something. We have philanthropies. We have different, you know, morals and stuff, and you know, people don't see that.
I find those movies actually very funny because if Greek life is actually like that, like how would you ever function as a human being?
Seriously,
like that, and now, like if you were a normal person just doing that type of stuff all the time, like you would not make it through college. You wouldn't make it through life. So I always find those movies very funny that they portray Greek life like that because in no way, shape, or form is that even possible.
Go ahead, Steph.
But I do have to say, so freshman year when I got my bid, my dad was like, oh, so you're in a sorority, like the movie House Bunny. And I'm like, Dad, I don't even own a pink miniskirt. And I never will. Like, I just don't do pink, nor miniskirts. But, and like, it's just really interesting that I have watched a few of these movies or even trailers of Animal House or Animal Party. And I was like, my sorority is nothing like this. Greek life, I know the guys are nothing like this. And even though it is portrayed, I mean, it could happen anywhere, but it didn't stop me from being interested in Greek life, which I do think is awesome. And there, really soon, I forget when, but there's a movie coming to theaters called The Hunting Ground, which is actually the opposite of The House Bunny, of Animal House, of these movies that show women who are going to speak out about things that have happened and sexual assault, and that they're not just inferior sexual objects.
I mean, even look at like Legally Blonde. Like that was like the movie that kind of got me interested in sororities because, like, okay, I know it's different, but she's a sorority woman who like stands up for her beliefs and like ends up like taking over the world. And like that's what sorority women are. Like we're empowered. Like you don't want to mess with us because we have morals, like we have standards, we have leadership skills, and we have goals.
2 points. The first one is one of the new movies, Neighbors. Neighbors makes fraternities out to be the worst people in your neighborhood. And I don't know about Sigma, but I know since I've been here and before I've been here, we've not been best friends with the East Falls community. Whether it just be like some kids walking down the street from one of our parties or just us in general sitting out in the backyard a little too loud. But Neighbors makes it out like, oh, you call the cops, like, we're going to come after you. Like, I'm not like that at all. Like, I tell my neighbors, if I'm, like, tonight, like, I can't plug that because my house is going to blow up. But like, tonight,
Only the figurative sense.
Tonight, like, we're having something because my roommate is in a band and, like, they just want to play for some people. Like, no big deal. When I leave here, I'm going to go knock on my neighbor's door and tell them, hey, like, this is happening tonight. Here's my phone number. If you have any issues, please contact me. I'll fix it right away. I am never trying to make my neighbors angry because I live with them 24/7.
I'll bake neighbors cookies and
yeah, seriously. Yeah. I never want to make my neighbors angry. Like, if they call cops on me, like, yeah, I'll probably be salty for like a night. But at the same time, like, I'm gonna go over the next day and I'm gonna apologize. Like, we're not like that.
I clean too.
And the other thing, yeah, always gotta clean the house. The other thing is the underlying sense that some of these movies, while they do portray them as like ridiculous groups, they also do in an underlying meaning. If you watch them and if you in on Greek life, you understand, like, greatest fraternity movie ever is Animal House, hands down. But those guys are a bunch of slobs, and their grade point average on the grade point average is 0.0. Exactly. Can you imagine it's a 0.0 average? But at the same time, when you look past all the stupid things they do in that movie, it comes down to the brotherhood of those guys and what they did for each other, to fight for each other, to stay on campus. Maybe, I mean, crashing parade might not have been the best thing, but it was all about sticking up for one another and going after it to help each other.
And one of the interesting things that always seems to come up, and this is something that has, as an administrator, is something that I deal with, but I am curious to get what your input is on this, is basically when does a problem become a problem for an individual who is a member of a fraternity or a sorority versus the sorority or fraternity as a whole getting in trouble for some actions? At what point, where's the line drawn? So I know that I have my own thoughts and views as the advisor to Greek Life, but I'm sure that you guys also have your thoughts and views on how that's handled. I know, Brittany, you wanted to go first.
Yeah, I think the issue comes down to when the actions of the individual are affecting the entire group. If the individual is not going to class, then like, okay, they're not going to class. But if the individual is not going to class, not going to events, not paying their dues, wearing their letters, out at a bar, that's affecting the entire group.
Go ahead, John.
I feel like, not showing up to class is something important because I feel like that puts like a outlook on the entire fraternity as a whole. Because we are family and we all stand for one thing. And I feel like that is something important that I do want our guys to like do.
There is no line. There is no line between what's affecting a person versus the entire group, because I am a member of what the same thing. Me and John are in the same group. If John starts screwing something up, whether it's affiliated with my group or not, people know he's a brother. So that's going to come back and reflect upon our group as a whole. There's no line drawn between. If you're talking about punishment, like, that's a whole different story. But at the same time, like, even that is still, there's very little line. I mean, obviously, if it's something like extremely illegal, like yeah, okay, that person just needs to be dealt with by themselves if it's on like a singular basis. But if it's just like, what are they doing in public, there is no line. Everything affects the group.
Sure. I want to go to Henry and then Stephanie.
Yeah, I mean, someone's acting out, it's probably best to handle it internally. However, if it keeps reoccurring, then you just have to like nip it while you can and just make sure it doesn't affect the whole organization, because it will reflect poorly on our groups.
Steph.
Yeah, like part of me during this really wants to put a number to it, but for instance, for the sororities, D Phi E is about 70 members. Theta Phi Alpha, as of last night, is now 55 members. But the guys' numbers are so much less than that, and they are yet so strong. So if 5 guys in AXP do something wrong, that's about 50% of their group, and that is a lot. So it's like
25%.
25.
We're building up.
Awesome for you guys. But so it's like really hard to say that I want to put a number on this and say it comes down to these people or the whole organization.
I definitely have to agree with Steph. Like having over 70 members in our organization changes things a lot. It's a lot harder to control 70 women than it is to control 20 guys. Like it just is. It is. It is. Just because you have more individuals, and kind of like what Steph said, you know, when one individual does something in a group of 70, yes, like actions need to be taken, but in the scheme of things, sometimes with the other, like the whole organization, it doesn't necessarily affect us as much.
No, I will say from an administrator's point of view, I know that it is definitely hard to sometimes draw the line as far as when does it become a problem for the fraternity or for the sorority, or when is it more of an individual problem. And what I have to say is, as an administrator, I like to work in conjunction with the fraternities and the sororities. So if it is just an issue that's affecting a few members, I like to then approach it with the presidents of the fraternities or the sororities and say, here's the problem that we're having, deal with this situation as you feel necessary. And oftentimes, I find that the groups are very responsive as far as placing sanctions on the particular members, and I find that's far more effective than just trying to punish an entire organization for something that just a few rogue members kind of went out and took care of. So as we are running a little low on time, I do want to get to some of the risk reduction and some of the great work that you, the Greek groups, are doing to kind of help mitigate some of the things. So could you guys just maybe talk about what do you guys do to empower your members to eliminate risks? And we'll start with Jimmy.
I'm going to pass this off to John right after me because he knows more about the It's On Us, because we're still trying to integrate that within our chapter. But for me, part of it, honestly, this is going to sound really bad, but it's like scared straight. Like, sometimes you just have to, like, make the guys learn, like, no, that's not okay. Like, whether it's posting a picture or just doing something bad, you just have to do it. But in the long run, it's honestly, for me, it's kind of like telling stories sometimes. Like, yeah, the upper guys did this, and this is, like, why we can't do that, or something like that. Just kind of, like, showing them past experiences or, like, other schools, like, oh yeah, like let's get like 3Ks. Like no, we're gonna end up like Temple where we get kicked off campus because we keep doing stupid things.
Right.
John, you know, I hung out with some of the younger guys last night, and like what I told them pretty much, I'm just like, you know, like you're here to get an education. You're not here to like do anything else. Like yeah, you're here to make friends, have experiences, mature as a person, but you know, you're in the fraternity for a reason. You know, because you know we want to make a difference at the school, and I'm pretty much, like I said before, like I'm pretty much trying to really enforce like social media in like a more positive way, not to be like, you know, oh, this is what we're doing tonight, this is that. Like I want to show people like what we're doing, what we stand for, and all that. And yeah, like back to the thing that I was talking about with It's On Us. Like I've already talked to like the Arlen guys, I talked to LaSalle, so we're gonna really try and push that and like make that a big thing for us.
Go ahead, Brittany.
As far as risk management goes for sororities, this year we put a lot of different things in place. So we have, we always do Sober Sisters when we do social events. We also have a standards board put in place. So if anyone would violate our risk management policy, they would be sent to standards for review. And usually they're giving a warning the first time, and after that, their first time there, usually harsher things are put in place just to have that individual understand. But I do agree with you. A lot of it is just being transparent with your members, and why can't we do this? Well, we can't do this because it says in our bylaws, or we can't do this because the university is really against this. It's really about just educating your entire group on the reasons why, and not just so much like the reasons why you can't.
And Henry and Stephanie will let you guys go very quickly just because we're running short on time.
Right, so when an incident does happen, we do try our best to learn from the mistake that does take place. We try and learn from that mistake, and I just lost my train of thought, I'm sorry.
That's right, we'll go to Stephanie while you get your train back.
So what Jimmy was saying before about how it's really important to pass down those stories of the negative things that do happen, and of course as well as the positives. When I got my little this semester, I told her a story about freshman year when I might have not waken up in the next morning like, hey, this might happen. And even, so there's like 70 sisters in our sorority. So each time I'm with one of them and, we're talking about like, oh, this party happened and, that was really fun. I'm like, this party happened and it wasn't so much fun because I made these decisions, and I want people to learn from that. So I think it is so important to share those stories, just like Jimmy had said.
Yeah, ultimately we just want to hold people accountable for their actions, and if they do mess up, then we have to hold them accountable, send them to our honor board and set precedents so guys know not to make the same mistake in the future.
And part of that, part of that is making it known to the chapter. You know what I mean? For us in Sigma, probably if one person knows, it kind of goes real quick. Maybe D-Phi and Theta Phi have to do something a little bit more to make it known. But when it comes down to discipline, sometimes you just do it right in front of your chapter at meeting because you need to make it known, and that's the best way you can do to get the point across to everybody.
Okay. All right. So to go ahead and wrap it up, I just want to thank everybody for coming to this particular roundtable. I think we did touch on a lot of very important points, a lot of the stigmas that are associated with Greek life, but understanding that maybe it's not so much a Greek life issue, but that the university in general has many issues that it has to deal with, but that Greek life really offers a lot to people, whether it be strong leadership skills, philanthropy, going out into the neighborhood and doing a lot of great work that fraternities and sororities do, and that ultimately having to fight these stigmas in some ways makes you guys better people because you have to aim higher, work harder than maybe other groups might have to do. So thank you all again for being a part of this round table, and thank you very much. Appreciate it.